Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Willkommen to Houselights. As we enter this house of Petersen, as we look at the works of Wolfgang Peterson of the 1980s, starting with his 1981 film Das Boot, a West German war epic about a Nazi U-boat that patrolled the seas of the Atlantic. So as you know, it's going to be a heavy episode, and joining me are my first officer, Tristan Riddell, and my chief engineer, Dr. Sci-Fi himself, Darren Moser. Gentlemen, welcome aboard. And are you ready to set sail as we go hunting allies in the Atlantic?
That threw me a little bit because this is my first time watching it. And I, of course, knew the story. I knew that it was about Nazis. I knew that it was about the baddies, and how this is rare for us, in American culture to be watching something from the other side. There's not too many movies like that within the realms of our filmmaking that showcase that. And so I was like, okay, so I wonder how I'm gonna feel watching this. Like, is the film is Peterson going to be able to get me to pseudo root for these people? Because even though they're not the allies, they're still the protagonists. And so it's kind of like like in TV, when you're like, I know this is an example that we go to all the time, or at least I go to all the time, but like with Breaking Bad, you have a main character who's a horrible person doing horrible things,
but he's the protagonist.
But he's the protagonist, and you kind of root for him. You end up rooting for him to do horrible things. And so it made me wonder, like, are we going to have that effect with this movie?
I think that Breaking Bad is very apt. I would add in there the Shield with, as you follow the antics of Vic Mackey as he stretches the boundaries of what law enforcement means. That was a very, very interesting show to watch because it. We'll get into it later. So this is your first time watching it, Darren. This is your first time ever encountering Das Boot, or is this have you seen this before?
This is my second time. I watched this when I was at college and lived with a whole bunch of film majors. So that's pretty much the only reason I think one of us had a copy of it, but it was probably not this exact version because we watched the super duper alley-ooper extended edition, the director's cut,
we should specify that, like, there's the theatrical version.
There's a lot of versions.
There's the TV version, like the TV miniseries version, and there's the director's cut. What we try to do as much as we can is we try to watch the preferred director's version of any film that we are reviewing, because this is a director-driven podcast.
Yeah. Well, and that's we should flag that from the beginning, that this is the director's cut. And the version you're referring to, Darren, that you might have seen is the what exactly do they call it? It's like the complete, the original uncut version.
Right.
And that, which is in essence, there's
basically
precedent,
a miniseries.
but there's precedent for that in American cinema as well, because The Godfather had its own television recut. And Superman, the movie in 1978, had a 2-night television event that has since been released as a single entity, which really gives you a testament for editing things down, because there are a lot of things that made sense why they weren't in the theatrical version.
And I think a more recent example was The Hateful Eight did a miniseries on Netflix.
Yeah, that was an interesting experiment. We should... it's interesting because coming out of this, I am intrigued to watch that original uncut version that takes the miniseries and puts it together for this film, because I love The Hateful Eight as a film, and I did not care for the way they cut things up for the Netflix series. Mainly because I think they didn't cut it appropriately for episodic. Like it was just like, yeah, it's an hour, let's cut it here. And it's like, no, you gotta
Oh, that's
have a
annoying.
little more artfulness to it than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't go all Lynchian on this.
Yeah, that's good pull. Good pull. So let's go ahead and embrace that part of it first. So Darren, eh, you've seen those two, this version and that version.
Yeah, it was
Tristan, you've never
probably
seen
the
it before.
director's cut, if I had to guess. Or not, sorry, it was probably the theatrical. So it's a hair shorter, but not by much.
It's substantially. I think isn't it a full hour shorter?
I'm seeing the
The
theatrical as 149 and the director's cut was 208 because we is
Yeah.
it
Okay, so it's not a full hour, but either way, well, yeah, 149, 209. The point being, I saw the theatrical cut many years ago, and I had an opinion of the film back then. This is my first time encountering the director's cut, and it's
because
interesting.
208 is, sorry for time math, is about 3 hours, about 3.5 hours, which I feel like
Right.
that's what we watch. So
Yes, and 149 would be about 2.5. So
they
either
really
way,
get you in that third hour. Oh man.
yeah. So the theatrical cut is about an hour shorter, and so I'll kick this over first and foremost to you guys. And Tristan, let's start with you. This is your first time encountering it. Did you feel the length of the picture? Did you sit there saying, "I really wish we could watch the theatrical cut," or did this feel like an organic film that was running the length it was intended to?
Oh my god. Oh my god. This was exhausting. I mean, I'm getting out of breath just thinking about it. It was, oh my god, it felt so long. I felt every soul crushing minute of this piece. I honestly, like the three of us kept making jokes. Like we kept threatening to do House of Peterson for months. And we wanted to do the 80s because there's a lot of great Peterson movies in the 80s. And so we're like, okay, if we do the 80s, we got to start with Das Boot. And all of us are like, oh, God, 3.5 hours. When are we going to find the time? Like we're all working men. We all have lives. We all have multiple children. How on earth are we going to get a 3.5 hour movie in there? And so I kept telling my wife, I'm like, okay, you don't have to do this with me. It's okay. You don't have to watch this with me. And to her credit, she gave me 2 hours. She gave me 2 hours of uninterrupted Das Boot. And
Run half the movie, not bad.
and then she's like, okay, that's it. We're watching Rick and Morty as a palate cleanser, and we're gonna go to sleep. And so after that 2 hours, it's one of those films that you can't just have on in the background. I
No.
predominantly work from home. I can't have it on in the background because I speak very little German. I took 3 years of German, and it's all gone out the window. And so you cannot have it on in the background. And so I watched a little bit on the train. I watched a little bit on my lunch hour, and then I got it done. So long story short, to answer your question, good Lord, not only was the pacing slow and the shots slow, everyone spoke like they were trying to fill the time. I just, every line was delivered that way, and like Jurgen Prochnow was the worst offender. I love that actor to death. I think he's fantastic in everything that he's in.
Wait, including Judge Dredd starring Sylvester Stallone?
Including Judge Dredd, including
Okay.
Air Force One, where he basically has no lines, and especially in 1984, Dune as Duke Leto Atreides. Yeah, all that, love him. But every single line that he delivered was soft spoken and delayed. Like even some of the orders that he was given, it just. I really wish we watched the theatrical. I kind of wish that I could watch the theatrical to get a basis of comparison, but I don't hate myself. I'm not going to do that to myself again.
Say, there's no one
anytime
stopping
soon.
you, Tristan, from watching the theatrical,
Well,
except for your own psyche. But
I think Tristan is tipping his hand there. But Darren, as you come back and you revisit it, was this if you watched the even more extended version or the theatrical earlier? Did you notice a difference in terms of the runtime here? Did you say, this feels different than the last time I watched it?
it was so long ago. It was many, many years. So I remember generally enjoying the theatrical version that I watched and just, letting it, because this, in college time, you got tons of time. You could just say, hey, it's a Friday night. We're going to start the movie at 6. And it's going to be done in just a matter of hours. Like, it's really nothing that big of a deal. So, yeah. But so overall, though, I didn't mind. I mean, I didn't mind the pacing because I feel like it's just synonymous with Das Boot. Like, what you're getting into. That is what this movie is. It is slow, it is long, but it builds this sort of just crushingness indicative of the submarine where you're like, and there are big moments that happen, like when they're getting attacked. The thing is, though, you'll get attacked and then you'll look at the runtime and be like, it's only been 30 minutes. It feels like it's been so much longer.
You're like,
And
I think they're gonna make it. We have about 45
yeah,
minutes left.
but I feel like the action, though, is varied enough where, yeah, I mean, how many times can you have we're getting hit by depth charges, but they do keep it slightly different each time, where different things are going wrong, or like when they are stuck on the bottom of the Mediterranean, where it just made me marvel at the perseverance of humanity, because when you are in a tin can and it's literally just, you have to fix it, and it doesn't matter how long it takes, you just have to fix it or we are dead. Like, that is literally what most of the scenes boil down to.
I kind of want to jump in on that because I didn't want to just be a complete utter naysayer at the beginning, because I do want to say that, like, that scene towards the end, like when they're trying to go through Gibraltar,
Gibraltar.
and they're trying to go through the strait, and then they get knocked on their ass. They're on the bottom of the strait, and the water's coming in, like, like the pipes are bursting, like nuts and bolts are going around like bullets, and you're thinking to yourself, you're like, yeah, we got a lot of time left, but at that point you're just like, I don't know if they're gonna make it. You're like, I honestly don't know if they're gonna make it. Like, every single step of the way, even when they started gaining a little ground, you're like, I honestly don't know if they're gonna make it. And that was so tense and that was so crazy. That scene was amazing. And then, like you said, Darren, they have to get it done. They pump out the water, they work on the engines, they change out the bearings, and like they're
The engine
feeling.
thing was what got me, because it's like, I am literally taking the engines apart while I'm inside, and I'm hand shaving the bearings. It's like, because you had no other choice. You had to literally turn the engine room into a machine shop. And it just, again, I get it. I totally understand what they're doing, but my mind is like, we're so, modern Navy feels so coddled, of like, oh yeah, well, we got 20 spares over here, or, oh, no problem, we're in a convoy and they'll just rescue us. I was like, no, you are a lone boat, and the only reason you didn't get crushed is because the Mediterranean was slightly shallow in that area. That is not a good reason to survive.
And I think that in terms of reason to survive, because obviously this film is decades old at this point. We're not going to worry about spoilers if you have or haven't seen it. But as we wrestle with that question of whether they're going to make it, I would offer that, one, I think the film is successful in terms of presenting to you that the soldiers on the front lines aren't necessarily consumed with or even aware completely of the ideological thing driving them to war. They have a first officer come aboard, and the crew sort of sneers at him because he's the ideologue. They even call it out. They're like, "Oh yeah, okay, this is the guy. He's in the cause. The rest of us, we're just on a boat, and this is just what we do."
The
Yeah,
captain even
okay.
called him Hitler Youth.
Yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
and and the first time we meet the other boat captain, when he throws up all over himself, he starts to insult their Führer and
Kind of
stops
does.
himself because he realizes he's going to get killed if he keeps going, sort of thing. So I think the film is successful in presenting that. But what I said to one of my kids, given the ending, and Darren, I'll throw this to you first.
Mhm.
The ending is very 1980s Western cinema war movie. They all die at the end because well, that's just what happens in these things. But I presented to my kid, and I don't know if you might agree with this, that the only way for this film to end satisfactorily for the audience is for them to die because they're members of the Axis. You cannot give these guys a happy ending. So in a sense, the only way you can resolve it is to doom them. Do you agree with that? Or would you have been satisfied with an ending where they made it back to port and then carried
and
on
then
with
it
their lives?
stops and we don't
Right.
see the air attack and the destruction. I feel you have to have them die, not because they are the quote unquote Axis bad guys. I think it is instead saying the statement of, but war doesn't care if you see yourself as the good guy, and it's going to kill you anyway, and it's senseless to a barbaric degree, because at the end of the day you're just trying to kill them, they're just trying to kill you, and you're trying to get through it. And yeah, and it's because it is, I mean, you feel like you're like, oh, these are all the people we've been rooting for 10 minutes ago. And now here they are, they almost made it back. They're not getting back to their sweethearts. They're not getting back to their country. You know, they're losing the war. And it is I think, a poignant gut punch of like, yeah, not everybody wins. Not everybody survives.
I think it's interesting that you pose that question, John, because I didn't really think about it until you asked that question. And I think if we show them seeing port from afar, like seeing port from their binoculars or from the periscope or something like that, and then the movie cut right there,
Flags are
I think
waving. They're cheering on the deck. They're really
oh,
excited.
not even that.
Oh,
Like,
not
no,
even
not
that.
even that. Not even that. Like, if we just see the port and then like the captain smile, boom, credits, I think that would work. But showing them go into port, smiling, waving, celebrating, people throwing roses at them and everything like that, no way could we end that way for the reasons that you stated, John, about how they're the Axis, they're the baddies, they're the enemy, and so they can't have a victory. So I think if the victory was just them getting away, it's okay. Getting away and celebrating is too far. And I know this conversation is going in a serious route, but I have to say this, and I don't know what this says about me. I don't know what you guys will think of me after saying this, but when I was so drained by the end of this movie, that when they got there and they got into the port, they're celebrating, catching roses, everybody's happy, and then we hear the air raid signal, and then we see the British fighter planes coming overhead. I laughed out loud, like I laughed like a maniac, because I thought it was hilarious that they did all that and they went through all of that and then they just got swept away by the Brits. Thought it was hilarious. And then it settled in when I'm like, oh wait, yeah, Peterson's trying to say, futility of war, like blah 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 blah. But yes, so was I alone in that reaction?
I didn't laugh. I have seen this once before. I'm pretty sure it was the theatrical cut because it was in college. The only way we could get our hands on it was Laserdisc, and you could only watch the Laserdisc
5 laser
in
discs in stack,
in the
right?
library. You could not check it out and
You
take
couldn't
it somewhere.
check it out? You had to watch it
you
in the
had to
library?
watch
Who
it
had a
on
laser
fourth floor.
player at their home? Like, why would you check it out?
I knew some
Well,
folks.
I mean, if I'm sure that there was some weirdo that had a Laserdisc player at that point. I'm sure that there's somebody listening to this right now that's like, well, of course I had 6 of them. But no, I didn't have a Laserdisc player. I'd heard about Das Boot and I said, hey, let's watch this. It's on Laserdisc and we can get it on the 4th floor of the library if we watch there. And all that to say, I guarantee you I would not have talked my friends into watching a 3.5-hour film. They would have looked at me and said, are you out of your gosh darn mind? Although they would have used stronger language
Look, we
than
only
that.
have to swap out the laser disc 4 times. It's totally
Yeah,
acceptable.
it was a lot of flipping.
Not including
But
flipping it, yes.
yeah. But I think that coming back to it this time, I didn't remember the ending specifically, but the second I saw Der Alte, the old man, Jurgen Prochnow, look up at the sky, I said, oh, that's right. They're going to get bombed. Like I knew it was going to happen. And Tristan, with what you said about you can't see them coming back and being celebrated and everything, the author of the book that the film is based on specifically was he had a problem with the film because he said it was basically an American action movie interpretation of his novel that's supposed to be about the futility and the senselessness of war itself. I would be very curious on my end to go back and see the theatrical cut because that's obviously what the author was reacting to. I would argue that director's cut winds up being successful because we all got that point. So
does
Darren,
the theatrical not have them dying at the end?
Well, no, it has the same ending, but
I was just curious.
Obviously with an hour's worth of footage cut out, there's a lot more action and a lot less character build.
Yeah,
true.
There has to be a lot less like of them just sitting around getting scurvy.
That is true.
And more depth charges.
And crabs. They also got crabs.
All about the crabs.
Which is horrifying thought.
I spoke with my wife, like as we were watching this. I truly believe this, and I'm not just like if I somehow damned myself, and I wound up in hell, and Satan came to me and said, "Here is the eternal torment that I have laid out for you, Tristan Riddell." It would be being in this movie, like it would be being on that boat with those guys on this mission for all time. That every single aspect of that truly feels like eternal damnation to me, like being underwater, being cramped with that many smelly, stinky, disgusting men, having rotted food all around me, like thinking that you're going to get a depth charge to the face at any moment. All of that, every single moment and inch of that felt like eternal damnation. And that, if that was the goal, I think they very much succeeded in that.
So let's stick with that because to get that feeling of claustrophobia, the director of photography came up with a very special Airflex camera with 2 gyro stabilizers, so it was a lot leaner, a lot lighter than the typical Steadicam, so that he could run through the hallways with them while not being. I mean, obviously, these sets are built within an inch of their lives, and you need to be able to move very nimbly. And there are a lot of really nimble documentary-style camera shots in this. Darren, the camera work has been praised on this. Do you similarly praise it? Did the style of camera work effectively make you feel like you were in this boat? Or did it draw any attention to itself? Did it interfere with its own lighting or anything like that?
No, I really enjoyed the camera work. I praise it the fact that I feel like I actually learned the layout of the ship. Like I could tell that, oh, this is the engine compartment, and then there's the officer's mess, and then there's the conning tower, main stage, and there's the torpedo at the front, and like it started to feel, because it all looks the same at the very beginning. It's very hard to tell where you are, even more so in the very, very beginning, because everything is jammed with provisions that are sticking out of everywhere. But no, I love the camera work. It's just, and it is a lot about camera. There are so many shots where it is just on the captain, and we're seeing his piercing blue eyes and his sweat as he's making it. It really makes you feel on how much of being on a U-boat is just listening to the cat. He is guiding everything. He's making every decision, every timing judgment call, and then everyone else's job is just to do what he says and carry out his orders. I mean, there was barely any discussion of anything of like, oh, should we do this? No, we just listen to the captain. He is going to get us through. Old man of the sea.
Yeah. Tristan, back over to you. Did you feel that the camera work was especially innovative, or did you feel any sort of, did you feel that it was ostentatious in some way? Do you feel that it didn't accomplish its goal? Do you feel that the camera work got in the way of the performance in any sense?
No, I thought it was overall amazing. I thought it was truly fantastic because they were able to do so much with so little. Like there was never a time when you felt there was too much 1-2 shot over the shoulder, 1-2 shot over the shoulder, 1-2 shot over the shoulder. So many boring movies do that where they have uninspired camera work where like you look a lot of if you look at a lot of rom-coms, it's pretty much just two people sitting down or two people standing there. You get one shot of them, one shot of the other person, maybe throw in a wide, repeat 1-2, 1-2, 1-2. This never really did that. And if it did it, it didn't do it that long. And that's really, really hard to do with such a small set. I mean, I think we've referenced this before, but if you watch Hitchcock's Lifeboat and the camera work and selection that he did for that, that's that's next level innovation with trying to not get the audience bored on your camera selection. Just one rung down, I would say, is Das Boot. And but the only thing that really took me out of it was there was a side shot. It was lockdown side shot outside of the sub when they were standing on top, and it was clearly rear projection, and it was clearly someone just throwing a bucket of water on their
Yes.
faces.
Mm,
And I'm just like,
yeah.
really? You have all these fantastic special effects, sound effects, and camera work, and then it completely takes you out of it.
When they're in the tower, right? And they're just
Yes.
getting
When they're in
hit
the
by
tower.
wave after
Yeah.
wave. Because that's
Oh.
literally what it is. It's them in a tower on in a tub, you know,
Like
and
in
they're
a soundstage.
Yeah.
And it's just, and I understand. I was just like, yeah, like they have 15 million budget. Most of it went to building the U-boat. I understand there's limitations and everything, but it's just like you go to a wide shot of an actual boat in water and it's going up and down like crazy through a storm. And then you go to the tight and it's completely locked down.
That's true. Maybe a
Yeah.
little
You're
more
like,
camera
"Oh."
jiggle to feel like you're
Yeah.
on the open sea.
Or even just put that tower on some sort of gimbal, and you just have
Even
everybody just
forward
stand
and
on either
backward
side
a
and
little
just
bit. Yeah.
exactly like the Millennium Falcon cockpit. You got guys just
No,
out
you're
of
right.
frame, like rocking the thing, so
Yeah,
everybody
it doesn't even have to be
believes
on
that
a
it's there.
gimbal. Nothing even that fancy. Just like you said, just like let's get some plywood and just rock it back and forth. It's just it was really unfortunate because it was so stellar. Besides that,
I
mean-
I agree with that, and what I thought I kept trying to solve it in my head. Aside from well, they obviously couldn't. They obviously didn't build it that way, and they shoot it. I'll put out there. I'd love to get your take on this. I think if they even just brought the camera in a little bit tighter on those shots, if they just zoomed in a little bit, like it
Yeah.
would have sold it better. Because you
absolutely.
wouldn't have seen the bottom part of the tower because it was distracting because you kept looking down. You're like, I can tell that's not moving.
And because even if you were tighter and you didn't have as much stem from the tower, and you were a little bit tighter, and you just had a little bit of lip of the what I'm sure naval people are screaming at us because I have no idea what it's called.
Yes, we're a very popular show
yeah.
with naval officers. That is true.
Hey, you don't
Yeah.
know. Like if it was tighter, your brain would think, oh, the camera is locked down on the sub. So the
Right.
fact that you're not rocking back and forth is because the camera is with the individuals, and not because if you're
And there were
far
so
away from
very
the,
shots of the forward or backward. It was always from the side, like
it
you
was
said.
always from the side. There was no variation. It was always from the side. It's like they had one day to get all those scenes done. And they're
Yeah.
like, just lock the camera down, say the lines, throw the water on them, and then let's move on. That's what it felt like. But if they did it tighter, I think John, I think that's a very simple solution.
Well, there you go. I got to get my time machine, go back, and then also maybe make sure no director's cut gets done so that Tristan can stay with it for the full 2.5 hours. But speaking of the director's cut, coming back to that, because we're talking about the technical stuff. This is a director's cut restoration overseen by Petersen, and it comes about much later. It comes out, I think, in 97, where there's a very other special edition that comes out in that year as well. And you have a director come back, oversee this, and the film by this point is firmly ensconced as an eternal classic, a preeminent submarine film, an absolute masterclass, Academy Awards, German Film Awards. It won. It was nominated for Outstanding Foreign Language Film in the Japan Academy Film Prize. Like, it's all over the world. People love this film. Darren, given that fact, why do you think the director's cut is done? If everybody loves the film, if it's established as a classic, what do you think motivates Petersen to go back and release a director's cut?
I feel like, in director's cuts in general, there's often a couple different reasons. Sometimes it's not really any longer. It's just like different, like little tweaks here and there. And sometimes, like Lucas, it's like we're not necessarily again making it longer. We're just adding another layer because the technology wasn't there. This one is obviously making it longer. It's the kind of the third type. And maybe, I don't know, maybe again from the source material, from obviously when they were shooting it, I mean, yeah, the theatrical is long, but can you imagine the assembly cut? This thing probably was like a 6 or 7 hour assembly cut. And they're
Oh,
like,
yeah.
how do we carve a story out of that? And just being like, hey, I'm getting a chance to restore it. Maybe it started like that. Maybe it started as, oh, hey, we're coming up. This movie, it's degrading a bit. It's been a couple decades. We're going to restore it. Do you want to do a pass on a director's edition? And of course, yeah, well, it's like, well, what more can I put into it? And maybe, again, I'm all speculating on all of this, but also, like we were talking earlier about the actiony feel, uh, you know, but what better way than to put more person moments in there? Although at the end of the day, though, and then granted, it's been a long time since I'd watched the theatrical, I cannot tell you what was new. And I don't know if even if I watched the theatrical and a week later watched the director's cut, I still don't know if I could probably tell you what was different. It probably was just longer, just more of everything. That's the vibe I'm getting. It's not like, oh yeah, this character was totally cut out, or oh, this whole sequence with the dive, the depth charges. We didn't have that in the theatrical. I feel like everything was just elongated.
People will probably hate this comparison, but I would argue that this probably winds up something like the Ultimate Edition of Batman versus Superman. And I refuse to say it is just V. It's always going to be versus. Okay, everybody, that's what the V means.
You
So
have my attention.
With Batman versus Superman, the Ultimate Edition, there's 30 more minutes of footage. But some of that 30 more minutes of footage is as simple as clarifying some stuff that happens earlier in the film and giving some characters a little bit more of a beat when they're having dialogue back and forth. And I've frequently said that the Ultimate Edition of Batman versus Superman, I don't know why they didn't release that one to theaters, because I hated, all caps, underlined, bold font. I came out of the theatrical cut hating that movie so badly. And then I watched the Ultimate Edition and I said, well, actually, I kind of like this. This works a lot better. And you wouldn't think that simple 30 minutes of time would have made a difference. But the difference...
I would think that. We know many movies that were slightly overcut that really shouldn't have
The
been.
Abyss comes to mind, of course. But
the whole
I mean,
third
to your point,
but with
John,
this, it's a beloved classic before this point.
Well, it's like, to your point, John, with that, like, so many people think like, oh, 30 minutes of extra footage. They think like, oh, is that like 3 10-minute scenes that they're adding it? Like, no, it's normally what you're talking about. Like, it's just spreading that out throughout the entire film. But with Das Boot, directors don't care. Like, when you have a real attention, when a movie is your baby and you are told by people, not you, to cut something out or do something different than what you want to do, that sticks with you, regardless if it's a success or not. Like, I guarantee you, Petersen didn't care if, like, they say, like, oh, you can do a director's cut later on, but the theatrical cut made lots of money and people love it. He clearly he jumped on it because it was a chance to show his vision of the movie. Doesn't matter if it made money. Doesn't matter if people liked it. It's his vision of the film that he wants other people to see, and that's the most important thing. And not where it is in the zeitgeist, not even if it's like when people say like, oh yeah, this was like when we did this episode of Star Trek, we really were thinking about Das Boot, that happens all the time. Like people like this was our, when they say this was our submarine episode, they're talking about Das Boot. They're talking about that. And
any other modern, K-19 Widowmaker, Red October, everything gets compared to this. It is the seminal work on the subject.
absolutely.
I'm glad you bring up Red October, because we have watched Red October here
There's
on
so much
Houselights.
space and for activities in that ship. My gosh, it's like
Oh my
a
gosh,
palace
modern
compared
subs are like luxury liners compared
They
to the
are.
U-boat.
They so are. Yeah.
Compared to the U-boat, yes, but let's go ahead and let's embrace that. Everybody loves Red October. Darren, you bring up Red October. Let's just go head to head right here. What makes Red October more, or is it equally as successful? Is it more successful as a
it's
film?
a little easier with the English, but I would say one of the things that they both do well is you get to know a lot of the characters. Like, I mean, there's a big crew on each of these ships. And I feel like in Das Boot, I know almost every one of them. I know what their hopes and dreams are. I mean, looking at postcards of snow, I mean, that scene was amazing.
Yeah, man,
But
I know them all by name. You got the no eyebrows guys, you got the
okay,
crab
maybe
guy.
I don't remember their
You got
names, but I love the part in the Red October where they all had to run to the bow to make the ship go down faster, because that at first I'm like, what are they doing? And then I'm like, oh, they're literally shifting the weight. Of course, that's what they're doing. But no, I think, gosh, it's hard in comparison, because I would almost say the greatest strength of Das Boot at its core is that it pretty much all takes place in the boat. We are not jumping around. We're not seeing the Allied command making plans and hunting it down. There's no counterpart to our captain hunting him, because that's not war. It's not a video game. We don't have cutscenes. We don't have radar, in our first person shooter. It's, oh, I didn't see that giant ship there. It's going to now torpedo at us and we got to dive. Like, that is real war. And I think that you lose that, not for negative, it's just different for in Red October. In Red October, we are bouncing back and forth between the Dallas and the October and just seeing this cat and mouse game. There is no cat and mouse game. This is a mouse game. There's only one side that we are seeing, which I think is one of the things that gives Das Boot its flavor, is because of that. I think it would not destroy, that's a bit harsh, but it would fundamentally change what this movie is if you were intercutting with like an American counterpart hunting him. And that's been told in other submarine movies. Well done, but that's not Das Boot. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's some of the comparisons.
I mean, it kind of does. I mean, Red October, I think, learns the lesson that if you're going to do an engaging action movie, you have to show outside the boat. Whereas this, I think
that's exactly what I was gonna say. It was just like this was all about the perspective of the captain, the perspective of the crew. Like, we don't leave that perspective. We don't go beyond what they see. Kind of like in Children of Men, with Clive Owen.
Clive Owen.
With Clive Owen, like that, like you don't see anything, you don't know anything he doesn't know.
He's the one with the eyebrows, Tristan.
Just like me. And you don't see anything that he doesn't see. You don't know anything he doesn't know. And the camera never leaves him except for one time. It just stays behind for a minute. And this is very much that. And I appreciate movies like that. I really like that, because even when they see the other guy in the other U-boat, we don't get a reverse shot. We don't get a reversal from
you
him.
can
We don't
barely see him waving,
Yeah.
just enough to make him out, and you're like, oh, what's his story? Nope, he's going that way. We're going this way.
Oh, fun fact about that: some of the wide shots with the smaller model, it's modified Barbies on top, literal Barbies on them
with
to
their
make it
arm
look
up.
like people.
Hey,
You can
Yeah.
kind of tell.
You can kind of tell. Not
The budget shows through sometimes.
little,
Sometimes
it peeks through. It kind of
it
peeks its head
it
out.
I'd
peeks
say
through.
Barbies are better than like sticks, and it's obviously not a human. At least it was the right silhouette.
Speaking of those Barbies and those effects shots, we have, of course, the sinking of the convoy freighter with that they double back to, and they torpedo one last time, and they're reveling in their victory. And Tristan, because we have already touched on the fact that they work for the bad guys, and they're doing bad guy things and everything. There's a very interesting human moment where they ask when they see guys on the boat jumping off, the captain asks, why weren't they rescued? And then makes a horrific decision to back away, but one that I would argue you can understand he has to make it because he barely has the provisions for the men that he has. So
Yeah.
to take more people on dooms everyone. Do you think that goes a good way to show that the captain, further reinforce, I should say, that the captain is not, he's not pro-Nazi. He's just a
He's
guy
not a
who's a
monster.
captain. And it's like but he makes a decision that's just awful. Do you think that humanizes him enough that you feel better about being with him, that you realize he's not a monster? Or do you think that scene doesn't play particularly well?
No, I think the scene plays really well. I really do. I really like that scene because you feel the frustration. Because even though they were the ones, like you understand it, even though it's contradictory, you understand it because it's war. It's war. It's not personal, it's war. And there's rules of war. And they were the ones who caused that situation. They were the ones who shot the convoy, who shot the boat, and then they're not like they're not like getting up and like picking off prisoners one by one with a revolver, you know. Like they're just seeing that and you can see the terror in their eyes. All of them are hit emotionally, like even though they killed way more people than what they saw jump off, it's different because they're not face to face. They didn't do it in cold blood. It's war. And you can like I honestly loved that the captain was frustrated and like you could see that he was angry. He was angry at the allies for not taking care of their own men because he knew that he couldn't do anything to help them. And there's zero blame. Zero blame, I mean besides the fact that he caused it, but zero blame from his perspective from backing away, because what is he going to do? What is he going to do? He can't keep them on the boat. The boat's too small. They don't have any food. They
Now
don't
you're
even have enough
they're going to
oxygen.
sabotage it. They're going to like there's no
Well,
way that's a win scenario.
But there's actually a real world thing. I read a book about the USS Indianapolis, which, as everybody knows from the movie Jaws, was sunk, and a bunch of people, survived, and they floated in the water. And Robert Shaw's character has an absolutely spellbinding moment in that film, talking about floating in the water and those eyes, those doll's eyes that kind of roll back up a little bit. But when I read about that actual historical incident, there was a bit of a scandal, very quietly handled and kept quiet, kept very quiet, because the Japanese boat that hit the Indianapolis did not pick up the prisoners, did not pick up the survivors, basically. And when peace was declared, there were a lot of sailors that were very, very, very upset that nobody made any effort to save them. And that's why they lost so many more people floating in the water, that basically they felt that the Japanese could have come and rescued them in that moment. And so, Darren, do you think that, given that historical knowledge, do you see a bit more of an understanding as to why that historical incident went the way that it did? Or do you think that this is this is just one of those things where a captain is forced to say, look, that's collateral damage and I wish I could do more, but I can't because I have to think about the people under my command.
No, I think I echo everything that Tristan said, the of it being just at war. And I mean, it is the choice of going back and then resync. Like, they didn't need to sink it more. It would eventually sink. But I like how they play it where up until that moment after he's fired the torpedo, it's like he doesn't know. Like, I totally get the feeling that if he had seen men on that ship before firing torpedoes, he would not have fired. Like, he just would have backed up, because that torpedo causing the then immediate sinking of the tanker is what caused that moment. But yeah, like Tristan said, it is a human moment of just regret of the things that wars make us do. It is not, you know, it's not played for laughs. It's not played for, oh, we got him. Like, yeah, even as it's burning, before they see people, they're kind of horrified. It's like, I, I kind of I kind of put myself in the thought of, okay, it's the 40s. Like, you have cameras, you have ways to record your life, but not like we have today, where almost everything is remembered and documented. That's one of those moments that, even without taking a picture, that's burned in those men's memories, watching the ocean on fire as this, and you're hearing the creaking of the broken hull under water. Like, that's a moment that is staying with them for the rest of their lives until the last scene. But yeah, so I feel like it's probably one of the best scenes as far as establishing the humanity of not just the captain, but also the crew, because they all act like that. No one's, they're asking the captain what to do, but no one's like, oh, we should do this. Like, they listen to him. They're like, it's your call.
So, in terms of things that stick with you, there are a lot of things that stick with audiences after the theatrical cut is released, and obviously we get the director's cut, we get the miniseries release, we get all of these sorts of things. There is a thing about the soundtrack, where in the soundtrack there was a German rave group called U96 that created a remixed techno version of the theme song in 1991, and I remember
I
a
did not
friend
know
of
this.
mine a friend of mine in the 90s was stationed in West Germany. Well, he wasn't. His dad was stationed in West Germany when the song was big. So when we did watch Das Boot in college, he relayed the story that he knew it because the song was a huge hit. And he laughed when he heard the theme song, because it's like da 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 Das Boot, and like he would just sit there and it's like burned in my brain. All that to come back around and say, given that surprising revelation that it was ensconced in popular culture for so long, Tristan, I love to ask about the score. What did you think of the score by Klaus Dolginger?
I have an issue with synth that tries to not sound like synth, and this was no different. The notes were cool, but the sound was horrible. I hated this soundtrack. I thought the score was terrible because it was probably the worst example of a synth trying not to sound like synth. And I have no forgiveness for that. I can't stand it. John, I know you have talked about, you and I have talked personally and also publicly about how you don't have as much of an issue as I do with it.
I do
But
not.
oh man, yeah, I did not like it.
I think that the Filmmusik, as it would have been called, was too repetitive. It was too reliant on just replaying the same theme. Now, let's go to a movie all three of us love.
Right. Like, we all know it because every time the music cue came, that was the music cue.
But let's go to, for instance, a movie we all love, 1989's Batman, which has Batman's theme baked into like every 5 minutes of the film, but it never feels stale or repetitive. I would argue that the music here while I wouldn't call it stale, it's too repetitive. Every time they dive, the theme goes. And it's never a different version of the theme. It's just, oh, it's the boat, theme. Oh, it's the captain, theme. Oh, it's almost as if they were just hitting a button. Okay, this is the theme button, and we're just going to hit this every time. Darren, I'm guessing all three of us are in sync on this, or in synth, as Tristan might say.
No, I think you're right. I mean, I would say, even though it is a weak score, I think the strongest aspect of this movie is the times it's not used, because there's a lot of times that you do have no music. It is deathly quiet. You're hearing the drip drip of the slow leak into the boat, and that's way more impactful. I mean, I don't want to hear, as the I mean, yeah, you need music. You need music in a film. I don't want a silent movie in that regard, but when they're in those quiet moments, I don't want them to hit the play the sound, play the score, the theme moment. So I do applaud them for their limited use in that regard. But yeah, every time they do use it, it is repetitive.
The one bit of forgiveness I will extend to it here in the director's cut is I have a feeling that Klaus Doldinger composed music for
to use.
Well, he composed music for a 2.5-hour film. And then when they released a 3.5-hour film, that Petersen may have sat there and said, no, just reuse that track.
I mean,
and just like
probably what they had to do. Yeah.
I have that sort of feeling about it. Just call it a hunch that they didn't have. It wasn't like Trent Reznor and Atticus Finch walking up to David Fincher and saying, "Here's 4,000 hours of music. Have fun spotting it." I think there was probably a limit, and they just said, just throw it in here. It's fine. It's fine. So with that, and this might tip off what we're about to get to with our ratings and everything. And Darren, I'll throw it to you first. There is, in fact, a sequel of the same name that is a television series.
I was just reading about that.
I read about that too. I also read some of the content within it. Holy crap. There's some grim, gruesome stuff they put in that TV show.
I have not read a whole lot about the TV show. I thought when I first saw notices about it, I was like, oh, they're rebooting it. I said, oh, J.J. Abrams, he's at work in the German cinema now. Cool.
Of course he is.
But I got to ask, Darren, after viewing this director's cut of Das Boot, would you want to watch the sequel series?
I mean, the limited bit I've read, it's obviously not about the same characters because they die. No. So you can't, it's not like, and then somehow in this story they lived and we tell their tale as it continues. Not really. I really have no desire to see it. It's like, it's kind of just riding the coattails in a way. Like, it's just telling more of the same story, or maybe another boat or another, but it's not this story. Like, I really don't see how it could improve either what I've watched already or extend it even more so. I don't feel that's necessary. Again, maybe in book form, because I think it was originally a novel in that.
Well, regard, there was a sequel book in 1995, because the original film is based on a book. There was a sequel book in 1995 called Die Festung. And
what does that mean? I tried to look it up, but what is that?
I didn't look it up. I actually I was happy with myself because I too, Tristan, took some German, and there were bits where I could understand what they were saying or what was written on the building.
I got alarm. I understood that. That was
pretty straightforward. It's pretty straightforward. Yeah.
That means fortress.
Yeah.
The fortress.
But it is interesting. Tristan, would you want to watch a sequel to this? Would you want to watch this sequel series that they're talking about?
No, not at all.
No?
Nope.
So, I mean, the thing is, that's pretty authoritative. So, we usually save the person where it's the first time they've seen it. We'll save their rating for the end. But I feel like it's going to take us out on a down note. So I'm making the decision here to let's start with Tristan's rating because, but before we do, we're going to do something a little different right here. Darren, right here in front of his face, in front of the audience, I want to do a little betting pool here.
Oh,
I'm
gosh.
betting that Mr. Riddell is coming in at a solid 1. Where do you think he's coming in with?
No, I don't believe it'd be a 1. I think Tristan, and I'm talking like he's not even here, but I feel like Tristan also understands the impact of this as a movie, and I cannot see him just giving it a 1, even if he hated every minute. I mean, his wife watched half of it, so that's something. But no, I will stop talking because I actually want to hear what Tristan has to say.
No,
about
you
his
have
own
to
self.
you have to log a guess. I'm not going out on a limb by myself here.
All you said
log
was
a
that
guess.
if he gave it a 1, and I said no. But you mean, what do I think he gave it?
What do you think? Yes.
Somewhere between a 2.5 and a 3.
No. Yeah, we're not going down to that scale yet. So you're going to say 2.5. You got to lock in.
Sure.
All right.
I don't particularly care because he'll give his vote and I'll give my vote.
I know. I just want to see. I say 1. You say 2.5. Tristan, who was right?
2.5.
You're doing that just to spite me. It was going to be a 1 till I guessed it, and then you. This is just to spite me. I want to go on record as saying
I've been podcasting with Tristan
right
a long time. I could tell I have this vibe. No, it wasn't a full guess, but I was like, I could not see him giving it a 1.
I say his heart tells him it's a 1, but he doesn't want to feel like he cheated the film in some way. But everything he said, I say but it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Give your reasoning,
John.
Right here.
You should know better. You should know better. I rarely give 1s. I rarely give 1s because like 1s is like Walmart bin crap.
Mad Max
was the vibe I'm getting. That was the vibe I'm getting.
Yeah. No, this is not. I'm sorry that I gave that.
And Conquest of Paradise. We all gave that 1s. Though.
Yeah,
we all gave that 1.
Well deserved.
Even though we were talking for 57 minutes, I feel like there's so much more to talk about because there's a lot more things that I wanted to say in a positive route. Where, I mean, I'm glad that we talked about the cinematography because that truly was the best thing for me, was the cinematography and the feeling like when the scenes actually did have action, when something actually happened, I thought that was really cool. And I thought that was really well done, and it was really interesting. And when they went after the caravan, or when they were evading some of the British ships, or when they were, getting depth charged, or towards the end in the third act when they were having to rebuild the ship parts, that was my favorite part of the film. I absolutely loved it. I thought it was really well done. And like I said, I was like, I feel like if I watched the theatrical version, I probably would give this a much higher score. I probably would. And I think when I have a little bit more distance from from this experience, I will go back and watch the theatrical cut and do a good comparison, because
I'd be interested to hear that. That would be really interesting.
I know I'm repeating myself here, but I truly believe that the theatrical cut is for people like me who like hate the idea of being on a sub, who just absolutely loathe the idea. But this was just way too long. It was way too long. And I'm okay with long movies. I really there's a lot of I am watching the 4.5 hour cut of Zack Snyder's Justice League. I
brilliant film. Love it to death.
I'm watching. This is probably like the 4th time I've watched it, and so I have no problem with long films. It's just has to be, the pacing has to be something. And I understand that people are like, "Oh, but you feel like you're in a submarine." I'm like, "Yeah, I do feel like I'm on a submarine. I don't like that feeling." But John, I'm sorry, Darren, you are right about why I rated it a 2.5. Is that even if my enjoyment was that or lower, I can't knock the impact that this film has made. I mean, like this made an impact. This was a part of the zeitgeist. People compare it to this film, and so it would be foolish of me to rate this something lower than a 2.5 just because of my enjoyment level. But there's so much of it's just I basically I would love to cut this movie myself and see how that compares to the theatrical version, because I feel like so much.
If you got a summer of your life, you could do it. It would take a while, but
there's so much of the intro that does need to be there. There's so much of the longing gazes and just the sitting there doing nothing, and just there's so much that could be cut and removed. Um, but and then like some of the special effects and some of the outward shots that really take you out of it. And so I don't find this an enjoyable film. And also, one big thing that I didn't really have a chance to talk about, and I know I'm going long here, is I never connected with these characters, not once. Not a single time did I ever connect with these characters, not a single one. And this could be my own brutish American in me. I don't know. It may I may be pig-headed, I may be too black and white. I'm very, very willing to accept that. But every single time they met danger, I'm like, "Good, I hope they die." Every single time. I was just like, "Good, drown, die. Friggin' Nazis." Like every single time I was like, "Good, they're dead." And when we actually got to the ending, I was like, "Cool, they died. They should have." That's just my perspective. And maybe because we're recording this on Memorial Day. I don't know. But that's my perspective through this entire film. And maybe because I'm too obtuse, I don't know. But I was not able to connect with this film. It was too long. It was too grueling. 2.5.
Darren?
Well, yeah, let's 10 degrees up on that forward bow as we head through. No, I feel, gosh, this movie. Yeah, I mean, we could talk even more about it because there's so much to speak of. We'd mentioned before recording, I love the fact that, or I didn't realize until reading about it, that the actors dubbed themselves because they couldn't use any of the audio on purpose because of the camera and the other sounds. So they recorded their own dubbing. So it's all ADR, but then they also recorded, for the vast majority of them, their own English version, which we all watched the uh, German version, which I personally have preferred just because I feel it matching the pace and tone and lips and all of that. I think it connects more. Anytime you watch a dub, you're always trying to fit more
I can't do
words
it.
into it. It doesn't, you
Can't
would
do
lose
it.
something. Even though I had to stare at my screen for like 4 hours to watch this movie, but I gladly did it. But this is also one of those movies that, I mean, like Schindler's List being made by Steven Spielberg. I mean, this is the fact that it is a German-made movie, this fact that it is German speakers making it, the fact that it is Wolfgang Peterson making it about his own country and his own, story. Like, that's a part of it too. Like, I don't think anyone else could have told this story or should have told this story in this way. Um, and I mean, we've again mentioned about how its impact on submarine films. I mean, how many times you hear a ping and it creates tension? Like, that's from this movie. It all comes from Das Boot. But yeah, it. Now I did feel that I connected more with the characters. Again, I couldn't tell you their names, but overall, you know, I think they had a lot of really great moments of, their wife was sick or they missed the look of snow or the love. Like, it was a very human movie overall, like very human. And I mean, I am glad the captain wore the white hat so we knew which one was the captain at the beginning, um, because that just helped. But yeah, I just started to feel like this motley crew of, you know, submariners that you're hoping, get through it. At the end, even though a lot of them die from the attack at the very end, none of them die throughout the actual story. That's incredible. Like, all the things they actually survive together and don't lose like half the crew. Like, that's incredible. But that's also war. That sometimes happens. It's not, I think that almost added a bit of realism to it, in the fact that, yeah, it's kind of, submarine warfare is kind of all or nothing. Either you sink the boat and we all die, or maybe we all live. But yeah, it, again, from the, we talked about the perspective. I love the fact that it's just the crew, that it is so tight on their story. I don't know if they ever had a swing set or some bulkhead they pulled out to get a wider shot. It didn't feel like it. It felt like everything was inside that tin can. Maybe one shot, but
Just one
uh
shot. Just
when,
one shot where they pulled off the wall and that was it. And they hated that they did it.
because yeah, I loved, when they're all getting to their stations and the two guys who have to turn the wheels are like sitting on a bench because that's what you do. That's all there's no chairs. There's benches if you're lucky. But yeah, so I did enjoy. Now again, will it probably be a couple decades till I watch this again? Yes. I mean, it's not just like Schindler's List. I rarely am like, you know what I'm feeling in the mood for? Nazis. Let's just and death. No, but no, as a cinematic piece, I have to give it at least a 4 overall. I do enjoy this movie. Probably when rewatching would probably go for the theatrical, because I don't necessarily know what I feel like I would miss in this longer cut. It might be interesting to compare it in my memory, but my memory will still remember the bits of this longer version and extra things. But so I'm going to give Das Boot 4 pings only. Wait, no, it's a different movie. But no, I think as a film student, as a lover of history, you know, don't write this movie off just because it is long. It might take you a weekend, but it's an experience, and it may not be your favorite thing. You may hate submarines from the get-go, and that's okay, because it's still the humanity of it is still going to get through. I think no matter what, even in German.
I wind up coming down with a strange rating because I do agree this is overlong. I suspect this is another thing where there is a perfect length somewhere between this director's cut and the theatrical cut, which occurs very frequently, I think. I think that their director's cuts should be test screened with people who can give them feedback as to whether something got overly indulgent in terms of timing. However, there is the fact that I did find myself engaged throughout the course of the film. I was unable to watch it in one sitting, but that's because I started it so late at night that I just couldn't stay awake, sort of thing. But I was engaged. I think that if you're going to make a 3.5-hour film, you're obligated to put an intermission into it instead
That
of,
would have been nice.
because honestly, screw you, because you should give a break. We just watched the 10 Commandments, for Pete's sake, over on Houselight. Not on House. We just watched the 10 Commandments over on Missing Frames, also here on the Nerd Party Network, and that had an intermission. So even though it was insanely long, when it hit that break point, it was like, okay, I can do things. I can step away the way that other people.
2001 had an intermission. We just watched
Yes.
that over here.
To let people go get another drink and smoke a cigarette and go to the bathroom.
More
and
modern
come
films
back.
should have intermissions. We need to bring the intermission back.
Once
really
you go
do.
beyond a certain length, for goodness sake, and don't make it just a title card that says 5 years later, Avengers Endgame. I'm looking in your direction. So I wind up giving this film a little bit higher than my overall rating for a film that is a bit overlong, because I do acknowledge that it is a technical marvel in a lot of sense. And I wind up giving it a 4.5. I think that this is a magnificent film overall. I think that in terms of the comments we're throwing out there, where it's like, oh, but it's about the Nazis. I think that one of the things the film effectively does is come back to the fact that these are guys in the military who are being thrown, they're being drafted, they're being conscripted, they're being whatever, they're being put in this situation. And if you really gave them the choice, most of them probably wouldn't be here. They wouldn't choose to do this. But because of outmoded senses of obligation, outmoded senses of duty, outmoded senses of patriotism, outmoded senses of all of these things, and the scene that really sticks with me is the scene where they go on board the naval officer's boat, and they have this smorgasbord there. And the naval officer is like, well, I mean, it's enough like home. It's not as good as it could be, but we try to do anything. And the captain, Jürgen Prochnow, goes up and he eats a fresh fig and he says, I've never tasted one before, or words to that effect. And the movie, I think, in that specific moment throws out there that the act of war in and of itself is a bunch of fat cats at the top who never see combat, throwing a bunch of people for their own ideological means and goals to say, oh yeah, you can go in the meat grinder. I'm going to be back here. And the deprivations I have to go through, our own bakery on board can't quite get the bread right. Like, F all of those guys. F all of those people that throw everyone into the hell that is war, that for no other reason than it's like, yeah, I think this is what we want to do. And I think it makes it even more tragic that they get out of the Gibraltar situation and they get back. And there's this palpable sense of maybe some of these people are going to jump ship because they've had it. There's enough. They're done. And then the capper is they can't get out of it. And so there's a double tragedy in that moment. So that's why I come in at a 4.5. And I'll stick with it. I have a heavy suspicion that the theatrical cut is a 5. So I will double back to it at some point.
I think I would probably give that a 5 as well. I'm a hard high 4 as well.
So I know that our rating section went on for a bit here. So who's hosting the next one? Who's hosting? Darren, you're hosting the next one. But my gosh, what am I going to be watching for the next episode of Houselights?
Oh, next we're jumping to 1984. A little more fantasy, a little less war. We're talking about The Never-Ending Story. Some might have called Das Boot The Never-Ending Story, but no, this one is actually The Never-Ending Story, that fairy tale, and we'll be watching it next here on Houselights.
Join the revolution. Join the Nerd Party.